This is your First Alert Weather Breakdown, a deep dive into how weather works with meteorologist Evan Thomason.
Welcome on, it is First Alert Weather Breakdown time. Hey, I'm meteorologist Evan Thomason. Welcome on, welcome in to the live stream where we go thoroughly about your Arklatex weather all around the region, and in the case of even in this podcast as well, outside of the Arklatex as well. We essentially dive into things that we, quite frankly, just don't have enough time for on your typical news show. Lots to get here for the day today. I'm excited, especially lately, that I've been packing lots of info, lots of exclusive content in for our episodes, our podcasts here over the past couple, just recently, just a recent vibe I've had over the past 2 weeks or so, getting in some good content here with you guys. We've had Andrew Wellman in with some of our Friday forecasts, for example, talking about sports. Here for the day today, we are talking about tropics. It's our weekly tropical segment, which, to be fair, is about to be kind of expired in a way, which is good news. Hey, the tropical season only lasts for one more month. It goes technically until the end of November. Kind of the peak of the end of the season was right around Halloween, which is obviously now past us, and things are looking a lot better in the tropics as well moving forward. But obviously, we looking forward to the past, things, well, did not go so well elsewhere, obviously across the Caribbean islands about 2 weeks ago, about a week. Man, how much time has flown. I think it was about a week ago only when Melissa was going through areas of Jamaica, Haiti, Cuba, and the Bahamas. So essentially, here's our topics here for today. We still go over your full local forecast here in store all around the Arklatex, which our best news in the weather department here locally is that we have a massive cool down on the way in just a couple of days, dropping our temperatures even lower to where you might be even feeling like it's winter outside. Yeah, it could be down to that kind of standard here coming up in just a little bit, in a couple of days. We'll talk more on that here in just a little bit. Meanwhile, our exclusive content, again, all surrounds the tropics. In fact, today we have a kind of a special tropical forecast, and we're involving it in the form of almost an interview here for the day today. We're talking with KSLA's Ashley Graham. KSLA News 12 Ashley Graham will be on the podcast in just a little bit, talking about how we can help out those victims, I should just say those people that were hit by Hurricane Melissa, who are still recovering here at this hour. We'll have a full discussion about that, kind of what happened, where do things stand now, and how exactly can we show them that we care, because we love to care about all areas that are impacted by tropical systems, and obviously a huge, devastating impact to the entire worlds that surround those Caribbean islands. Again, I'll just mention them, and we'll mention all the kind of areas that were affected a little bit later again, but Jamaica, Cuba, Haiti, and Bahamas, all four areas desperately hit, especially Jamaica, which got the brute force of that system on by. We'll talk more about that later. We'll talk more about the tropics later, but let's get into our first little system on our first local Arklatex weather back in store here for you. Here's a live look into the Mattress Plus Skycam out on top of Shreveport, Louisiana. Hey, another beautiful day. Birds chirping, birds going by our camera here on a beautiful blue sky and sunny day here all around the Arklatex. There's another one. I'm not sure those are birds or if they're more flies or mosquitoes. But anyways, they are still chirping away, and hey, go ahead. It is nothing but a beautiful day here throughout Wednesday. No chance of rain at all to hinder you on your way out the door here for the day today. All right, in addition to that, there's a look into Texarkana. Same thing, and more birds flying around. Hey, that's a consistent theme. Heading on out the door for your Wednesday. So we got these cool mornings in store, but certainly it's warming up a good bit into this afternoon. That's all thanks to lots of sunshine, which is going to continue on almost day in, day out throughout the rest of this work week. So plenty of sunshine, plenty of warm conditions in for our afternoons, at least all the way through Friday and Saturday. Here's the thing, though. Next week, almost a complete change in regards to the temperatures here for you coming up here for the second week of November. We turn much colder here for next work week coming on up. That's what we really want to keep you first alert about. And this weekend is kind of the transition period where we're transitioning from the warm week this week to cold temperatures next week. So We go over temperatures first and foremost, always the first weather breakdown. Then we take a look at the conditions, and obviously honestly the big story and theme of the next several days is just tracking onto the temperatures here, and we'll explain why in just a little bit. Temperatures upper 60s, lower 70s. That's comfortable t-shirt and shorts weather now. After we woke up to temperatures in the 40s here just about 3 hours ago, now. Again, comfortable, but it continues to warm up. We still got another 6 hours of daylight coming on. That'll help us warm up to a temperature of 80 in Texarkana, 81 in New Boston, 79 in for Foreman. Across East Texas, 81 into Marshall, 81 into Carthage, 80 in Center, 80 also in Dangerfield, 80 in for Shreveport, 81 in for Natchitoches, 79 into Bienville, and 78 for Homer for our high temperatures. Now, this is the big system that's going to be coming by. That's going to be happening mainly on for the weekend. The highs that you just saw there, pretty much staying in that level here for the next 3 to 4 days before this system. Oh, man, it's going to change us quite a lot, bringing us, yes, the coldest air of the season. I mean, we're even talking coldest than even in recent memory. That's dropping our morning temperature specifically as low as the freezing mark. So, first and foremost, prep up the pipes, prep up the plants. If you haven't done so already, you have a few days to do so. This is not happening tomorrow by any means, but might be a good weekend chore for you to do if you're wanting to preserve, again, the plants and maybe keep those pipes. Man, watch out for them because it could be, again, bitter cold, especially heading into next week. Now, when you usually have these kinds of systems chugging on through with such a massive temperature change, in usual standards, you would have storms with this. This would mean severe weather in terms of like a rapid 20-degree temperature cool-off. It would usually bring rain, storms, and even the chance of severe weather. None of that. We are getting no rain with this system whatsoever. It has not shown up in any of our future tracks with this cold front coming on by. It's almost just going to be just coming along by itself. Just the cold, dry air. And it's, again, just not bringing us any chance of storms here for the weekend ahead. So at least your weekend plans are looking good. So here to go into our temperature trend map. In fact, I actually forgot to add on a timestamp onto this. Let me do that here for you really quickly, actually, on our windshield here for you. There we go. Hold up a second. Beautiful. Timestamp. We love to see it. Let's see what time the cold temperatures are exactly going to be showing up on your doorstep here. So we got warm temperatures here over the next couple of days or so around the Arklatex. Yeah, 4 days. It's kind of the span of how long this is going to last here all the way through your Friday and Saturday. And then you look off to our north. Yeah, this is going to be an Arctic cold air mass that's going to be spanning out of, you could even say the Arctic, but this is going to be coming out of Canada, dipping down first into the Dakotas and Minnesota here. First, you'll start to see it on Friday. That's what we'll try to check onto the temperatures just to see how cold it gets up there, because essentially this cold air is just going to be dipping down southward in a rush. It's going to be coming down here to kind of rewind a little bit. It looks like it's first going to be coming through mainly for Sunday. It's going to put a big contrast in between our 2 weekend days, especially when in regards to the temperatures as well. But that's going to be hanging around for Sunday and cruising on through your Monday in the process as well, before temperatures finally looks like they might start to rebound a little bit more into the middle of next week. By rebound, I mean increase back to a little bit of a warmer standard there for you, but a big cold Arctic air rush is in store here for early next week. So what are we talking about with the numbers? What does that mean for our temperatures? Well, again, excuse me. Again, next 3 or 4 days, we got highs leveling off in the lower 80s here between now and Saturday. But then you'll notice that big cool down. Look at that. That's a span of 17 degree temperature change in a matter of 1 day between Saturday and Sunday. That's going to be quite the contrast in for your weekend days. They're coming on up. So if you prefer warmer days or warmer conditions, Saturday is your day. If you are one with the fall and embracing this big cool down coming, Sunday's your day. Check out the morning low temperatures. Those will get a lot warmer, especially in for the end of this work week. We've seen our morning temperatures already kind of steadily rising in from the bitter cold Monday morning that we have. And speaking of Mondays, yeah, it's going to be bitter cold again. In fact, even colder here for next Monday. We'll get more on that in a second. But essentially, mornings go up as warm as the lower 60s here for the start of your Friday before starting to really ramp down into Monday of next week. And not only do they roll down as low as 38 degrees, they roar down lower than that. These are feels-like temperatures, which include, we're used to feels-like temperatures being hotter than the actual temperatures because that usually includes humidity. But in this case, when you're talking about the cold, it's talking about the cold air that's already in place plus the wind chill that is really bringing down the house in regards to these temperatures. Look at this. This is 20s that you're waking up to. And for the start of your Monday morning. And obviously that brings, again, the threat of the first freeze of the year for many of us around the Arklatex. Again, that is Monday morning. All eyes are going to be on that and seeing how cold that exactly gets. Meanwhile, future track here for you. As for the skies, I haven't talked too much about it yet because we are, again, as mentioned, in that big cold front that's happening over the weekend, not expecting much in terms of rain whatsoever. I think the only thing I've been even seeing, I saw this morning, is just a little tiny isolated fog. We saw that especially across some areas of the southern half of the Arklatex this morning. That could even continue on into your Thursday and Friday, too, with a little bit of cloud cover. But notice no shades of green are really showing up at all. The point is, no rain to worry about here for the rest of the work week, and most importantly for your weekend plans as well here for Saturday and Sunday. So, in fact, you check out the next 7 days, no measurable rainfall. We got some off to our east, maybe a little bit of some creeping to Monroe closer to Friday and further on eastward into Mississippi, but the point is that does not affect the Arklatex at all, at least all the way through Tuesday of next week. There's some hints of rain coming back in the 12-day extended forecast, but it's just hints. No major chance of rain, again, in sight. That includes your weekend. Weekend plans are looking good. But as mentioned, it's going to be a big contrast between the temperatures on Saturday to what you're waking up to and walking out to on Sunday. Big drop. Big temperature drop. Highs are in the 80s on Saturday. Highs are in the 60s on Sunday. And again, it will drop in for your 7-day forecast as well, heading on into Monday early next week. Highs will be down to 60 for you then, with potential lows waking down, where you're waking up to down in the 30s in the process too. Meanwhile, next 4 days. Yeah, you got 4 more days, including today, to hang around with the slightly warmer than average temperatures, with highs getting into the lower 80s here for the end of the work week. Even some mornings definitely getting warmer here. Again, only a morning low of 63 there for the start of your Friday. And overall 50s is what you're waking up to through Sunday morning before that rapid cool down definitely takes over. Last thing I want to get to, actually before we take a quick commercial break, real quick here for you, is we got your first high on the tropics. Again, as mentioned, this is a tropical episode. We'll have more on kind of a recap on what Melissa had in just a little bit, but kind of looking towards the future. We are still technically in our tropical season. It goes all the way until the end of November, so November 5th, so we got one more month with this. But to be fair, November is really when things drop off a lot in regards to the activity. Kind of the peak months are between August and October, going through the end of October into going into Halloween. And kind of case in point, what we saw with Melissa, you're obviously still able to produce such a powerful tropical system there at the end of October. But hopefully things are dropping off in November, and we've already seen some signs of that happening, starting with the water temperatures. They're getting much cooler, especially on the northern end of the Gulf itself, which is becoming less, which essentially just means it's much less likely that a tropical system is going to form just based on those temperatures. It doesn't have temperatures warm enough to be able to fuel a tropical system in the Gulf itself. Still a little warm into areas of the Caribbean, but overall, still no chance of development over the next 7 days for any kind of a system out there across the Atlantic. In fact, I'll let you see this. I'll let you see the whole system itself there. A little bit of cloud cover off in the northern end of South America, but besides that, I mean, you look at the Gulf, you look at the Caribbean, there is not much in terms of cloud cover at all. Nice dry conditions across most areas close to home around the region here for you. Again, especially the Caribbean. We'll talk more on that here in just a moment. The last graphic I have for your tropical forecast here, this was a prediction coming into the season here for us, somewhere in that ballpark of 13 to 18 named storms and 2 to 5 major hurricanes. Now, we had a more thorough prediction mentioned where it was about somewhere in the ballpark of 16 named storms and 3 major hurricanes. Well, thankfully, this has actually been a below-than-average season in that regard. We've only had 13 named systems, which is technically 2 to 3 less than what we were expecting here heading into this year. In fact, only 5 hurricanes out of the 8 that were expected. But that big number. Again, it only takes one to affect any certain area around the Atlantic tropical season, but that big number, four major hurricanes, that's one or two projected above what we were expecting here. And not only that, we also saw those major hurricanes not only just become major hurricanes. In order to be called a major hurricane, you needed to be Cat 3 or above. These major hurricanes mostly became Cat 5s. I believe we had somewhere in the ballpark of I think we had 3 out of those 4 hurricanes, major hurricanes, become Category 5, which is kind of unheard of. You usually have 0 to 1 of those in a season period, and quite wild. Now, the first 2 of those storms that became Cat 5s were Aaron and Umberto. Kind of forgotten storms, mainly because they didn't do too much. They were Cat 5s out in the open Atlantic and curled out way eastward before even making any kind of landfall with not just the United States, but with anybody around the region for that matter. But that last one, Melissa, about 2 weeks ago, I don't know, it's about a week ago, obviously making horrific impact on tropical Caribbean nations. When we come back, we have Ashley Graham in the chair across from me, and we're going to talk about some of the ways you can help out, especially in terms of helping out those in relief who need it the most from Hurricane Melissa. We'll talk all about it coming up after this. Stick with us. Hey, welcome on back to the First Alert Weather Breakdown. Again, I'm meteorologist Evan Thompson. Thank you very much for joining us here for the live stream here for today. We have our tropical segment again here for the day today, but as just mentioned, everything is quiet on that front moving from now into the future. But obviously, everybody's still picking up the pieces from Hurricane Melissa. And the best person I wanted to bring on for that is someone who's been all on top of this on social media-wise, especially last week during the peak of everything happening. We welcome on our own Ashley Graham. Thank you very much for coming on in the First Alert with Breakdown. By the way, first time.
First time ever, yeah.
Thank you very much for joining. And just really quickly on that front, I think this is the first time that just mark this down. I think this is the first time that me and you have been together on anything.
Because I've literally not done mornings here. I've been chief investigator here for more than a year, and I have not had to do mornings yet. So I never get to work with Evan, but no, it's been super fun. I feel like back when Austin was here, I did the noon a couple times, and so Austin and I would work together. But this is great. So I usually hear you every morning from my office. So now I can actually sit here and watch, and I'm glad we get to talk about this.
Am I that loud? You
no.
Can hear me all the way over there?
It's just a very echoey newsroom.
It is. It is. That is fair. It's kind of a corner and
yeah, we have a little sound
blocker,
but it only goes so far.
All right, so we're talking here about Hurricane Melissa, though. All the impacts around that. Obviously, horrific system in and of itself. Kind of, I like to go over these kind of, especially these kind of interview scenarios, over going over like the past, the present, and the future.
Yeah.
Kind of going over the past. Just what happened. Obviously, also, can you explain your background and your ties to Jamaica itself?
Absolutely. So both of my parents were born and raised in Jamaica. They came up to the United States when they were fresh out of high school, basically, to different spots. But my dad, his family, I have giant extended family, and a good chunk of them still live in Jamaica. My dad's side of the family lives in Maypen, which is in Clarendon Parish, and my mom's side of the family is from St. Thomas as well as the Kingston area. So more toward like the central east side of the island, like central, like Kingston's the capital, but not the hardest hit area that we saw with Melissa. But yeah, a good, I would say 40% of my extended family still lives on the island, or at least travels there back and forth between the island and the States pretty often. So that is the background that I'm working with. And they run the gamut. They run all over the island, but not as much on the west side, which that was really the key because...
That's where the eye hit.
Yeah, it's where the eye hit, and so I hit like southeastern or southwestern Jamaica, and so people would ask me like, "How's your family doing?" And I'd say, "Well, they're all over, but the good news is they were not directly where the eye hit." So that was bittersweet a bit because one of the other things that people may not know about Jamaica is that southwestern area, St. Elizabeth, that parish. They break it up into parishes, kind of like we do states, and that is like the agricultural and livestock hub for Jamaica. They call it the breadbasket of Jamaica. So a lot of the country's agriculture, a lot of the way they feed themselves is in that same area, or is normally produced in that same area where the bulk of Melissa hit. So that area has been, from what I've seen on social media and from what I've seen from people not only who live there but have gone to cover it or volunteer there, St. Elizabeth is having the hardest time. So it was definitely intense to watch it from afar. You know, in my family, we have like a group chat on WhatsApp just because that's the easiest way to reach everybody. So we didn't want to like burden everybody with using their cell phone battery to like update us constantly. And also too with, cell service was also a big deal, cell service and internet. So there were some days where not just my family, but families all throughout the diaspora, I call it, they couldn't reach their family members, even if they were fine, even if, everything was okay, there just wasn't a connection or a way to get through to them. So even now, there are still Jamaicans who are trying to reach their loved ones on the island. I go on Twitter all the time and I see people saying, "Hey, this is my uncle, this is my grandfather, he lives in this neighborhood, in this town or this parish. If anybody's around there, can you go check?" Obviously, one of the other things that's been really hard is road access for a lot of places. The government there has been working really hard to bring in heavy machinery to be able to clear things out. And so that every day there are new roads opened up, more access to hospitals, more access to just for rescue crews to come in, whether it's to drop off donations, to feed people, to get people out or in. But it's slow going. And I think the thing that I noticed the most was obviously flooding was going to be a big deal on the coast. But the good thing is that a lot of the structures in Jamaica, I guess aside from St. Elizabeth, the southwest side, a lot of them are solid concrete with reinforced steel. So when people were saying like, "Oh, have houses washed away, have things been destroyed?" It's like you got roof damage in a lot of places, but not as much structural concrete. I mean, just giving my family's house as an example, on my dad's side, that house has been there since at least the 1950s and has not. I mean, you get a little bit of leaking, a little bit of flooding, but nothing to the level of, we have to start all the way over. So that's how a lot of things in Jamaica are built. Yeah,
the foundation has stayed steady, which has been good, especially for protecting lives for those that were obviously stuck on the island, because you're on an island. It's hard to be able to leave.
Yeah, and I wrote about this, I'm writing a piece about this, but the thing about hurricanes, which we know, and we know working in news and weather, is that, you have a little bit of time to prepare. Usually they don't spin up out of absolutely nowhere, and you're in hurricane season, so you're kind of keeping an eye on things regardless. So there's time to prep in terms of getting your gas and getting your groceries, things like that, but there's only so much you can do in terms of coming off of an island to not deport, that's not what I meant to say, to evacuate
Yes.
to somewhere safer, which is why I think a lot of these structures being concrete or being so solid was so important, because even actual hurricane shelters or hospitals, they're built a little bit like Fort Tough. And just to kind of give an anecdote from the U.S., I lived in Hurricane Ian territory back in 2022. I lived in Fort Myers, and so you saw a lot of people who, even if they couldn't evacuate Florida entirely, because it's a lot to try and get out of the state, they were evacuating to shelters that were on higher ground, shelters that were a little bit more secure, built like tornado shelters. So that's why we emphasize, like, you don't have to necessarily go all the way out of state, all the way out of the country. You just have to find somewhere that is safer and more secure than maybe where you live. And just do the best you can. So it's really, really important every year. And he didn't pay me to say this, but to really just reevaluate your hurricane plan, what your evacuation plan can be. I can't stress that enough.
Fair enough, yeah. Obviously, with all the devastation around there. And you mentioned one of the things about being on an island. I mean, obviously, some people around here just, when you're evacuating, you obviously have to deal with the traffic of it all, but you have the ability to just drive away. Even for the most devastating storms for some of us, like Katrina.
Yeah,
I have a
exactly.
vivid memory of that for evacuating myself to Texas.
Right. And
Again,
even just getting one state over can be tough. I know when I lived in Florida before Ian, people used to talk about Irma and how they would get stuck on the interstate, because they ran out of gas and the gas stations were empty. Yeah. And so it's one of those things where even just going from like Fort Myers to Orlando, which is about a 3-hour drive, that can do a lot for you. So it was the same logic that I think people meant well when they said, oh, we've got to get people off the island, but there's only so many airports, only so many planes, and then you've got millions of people who live in Jamaica as well as people who visit. So it was a challenge for sure, but I think people definitely hunkered down the best they could while the storm, ahead of the storm and after.
I agree. Obviously, the devastation doesn't just include loss of life, as we just mentioned, but just the change of the landscape. You mentioned it was the agricultural center of the area, losing so much money. I believe it's estimated at somewhere in the billions of dollars, which is a lot for obviously a country of Jamaica. Obviously, there's other countries as well that got affected by this landslide-wise. Cuba, Haiti. Those nations aren't even mentioned as much, mainly because it kind of, I wouldn't say an afterthought. That's not the word I'm looking for.
But Melissa had weakened, it seemed like, a little bit by the time it got to Cuba.
Huge
but it was
rain
still
bands.
big. I mean, and I remember the next day after Melissa had passed Jamaica, hearing about dozens of people dying. I believe it was in Haiti, and I was like, oh my God, like the storm still has so much power. Even moving through, I think people definitely there's a lot of aid that's going to Jamaica, which I'm grateful to see as a Jamaican American, but I do want people to know, like, there are other efforts for other islands as well. And I think the islands are trying to help each other as best they can too. It's just a matter of assessing who needs what and how the best way is to get it.
Agreed. And that kind of just leads us to this point for helping each other out. First of all, I've seen such a terrific response from people flying in, or I should say countries flying in. Multiple countries. I think I've seen somewhere between United States to Great Britain to even European countries. Yeah, coming in to help in islands of the Caribbean just with any kind of supplies that they need, any kind of money. Obviously, as just discussed, this is not just a loss of money just from damage itself, but this is a loss of money just from, as mentioned, was the agricultural center. You're losing your product that you're selling out to other areas as well. It's physically altering the landscape. That's so difficult to do. And that's what these monster storms unfortunately do in this kind of system. But this is why we always kind of show our own kindness. This is also why I'm a meteorologist. I love showing the light in throughout the darkness because, unfortunately, dark times like this are going to happen. Storms like this are happening, and especially they've been more frequent to happen, especially lately. But always to look out for people in the end for those kind of areas. So this just kind of leads us to the question of, how can we help? And obviously, again, I know it's been a full week since this has already happened, but this is going to take months,
possibly
years
years.
of recovery that I was going to get to as well. So what's the best
yeah.
way that we can help? I believe you've been on top of this with the links as
I've
well.
been, I mean, I feel like my friends and family have been looking at my social media like, oh my God, will she talk about anything else? But it's just so much going on,
Yeah.
and there are lots of ways to help. I think the Jamaican government was really on top of it in terms of creating a website, which Evan has that on the screen.
It is on now.
And it is the secure way not only to donate if you want to make monetary donations, but you can also see the list of needs, the list of items that people need, whether it's sanitary kits, water purification, groceries, clothing, things like that, tents, all kinds of things that you need after a disaster that you might not think about. So the easiest way, I think, would be monetary. But I will say, just from what I'm hearing from family and friends, is that having access to food is like the biggest thing for a lot of these areas, especially the further west you go in Jamaica. So I will caution the investigator in me wants to make sure that people are being safe consumers. So I will caution that if you want to donate items or if you want to donate money, I highly recommend vetting where you're donating, who you're donating to, where that money or those supplies are going to go. The Jamaican website, which Evan had on screen, is also is a solid way to do that. I believe that website also has information about if you wanted to send, we call it sending a barrel because it's literally a barrel that's almost as tall as me. A lot of people send them to Jamaica filled with supplies, and that's not just related to hurricanes. That's I mean, we were sending barrels when I was a kid. So people pack those things with not like shelf-stable foods like rice, beans, flour, all kinds of foods that are more shelf-stable. And there's information about where you can ship those items. I believe the Jamaican government is working on covering or lowering the cost of shipping so that it gets to the right place. I do want to also shout out the United Cajun Navy, and I talked to them last week just before they started sending crews. Well, they sent a crew before the storm, but they were in the process of getting ready to deploy more volunteers. And they also have, if you go on their website, they have a Amazon wish list that they use where and it's specific to Hurricane Melissa relief. And if you buy one of the items off the Amazon wish list, it doesn't get sent to you. It gets sent directly to them. So it gets directly to the people who need it as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So they, during our interview before they deployed all of their crews, they made sure to tell me about that. But I mean, monetary donations are going to go far. I will say if you donate on the Jamaican government website and you say, I want to donate, make sure you're picking the right currency. Because when I tried to do it once, it was automatically in Jamaican dollars instead of US dollars. And $1 US is about 150 Jamaican dollars. So every little bit, we have a saying, every mickle make a muckle, every little bit counts. But if you think that you're donating 100 US dollars, make sure you're setting it to USD. So I wouldn't have known that had I not tried to click through it myself. But yeah, those are going to be the short term, really most efficient ways of helping. I've seen lots of GoFundMes of people collecting money for products that they can donate. I've seen people also doing Amazon wish lists. And I also have a family friend who is out of Houston. They are from Jamaica as well, and they are trying to pack a shipping container. So one of those really big 18-wheeler containers full of supplies, lumber, groceries, things like that, and shipping it to families in Jamaica. So there are lots of ways. Just be careful if you're just seeing random ones on the internet, and just do your due diligence. But if you feel like you have, I know we have a lot going on too with everything happening with the government shutdown in the U.S. Not going to get political, but I mean, families are struggling here, so I totally understand. But it's even just sharing a post about these efforts, even just continuing to share on social media. I've seen people who would have vacationed in Jamaica around this time, but they're going and they're wanting to volunteer. That means the world. So, because I mean, the airports are pretty open. Like I was very surprised.
Making the most out of a bad situation.
Yeah, and we try to do that. We try to find the light. So I just say be careful and do what you can, and just know that every little bit that you do helps a lot.
really quickly. I do want to mention that website for you one more time on your
Yes.
screen in front of you. Again, it's supportjamaica.gov.jm.
Yes.
You do have to put in the .jm, by the way. I tested
Yes.
that out myself, and it did not work if you did not put it in.
And the government also put out a bunch of like scam variations of the website, which is
wow.
why it's so important. I mean, they're very similar. You would click on it and not think twice, and they might look similar when you open them. So just making sure that you're going to that specific .gov.jm is crucial, because I would hate for people's money to go somewhere where it shouldn't, especially when they're trying to help.
Yeah. So again, that's supportjamaica.gov.jm.
Thank you, Evan.
Thank you. Of course, thank you very much for coming on and sharing your thoughts. Obviously, this will be recording. This will be shared onto our website as well as all of our First Alert Weather Breakdowns are shared. But first of all, thank you so much for coming on.
Of course.
Lastly, you said, and I do want to emphasize, you and your family are okay?
They are great. They, I mean, even the houses that I talked about earlier that were those solid concrete, some of them had water in them that just blew in with the strong wind. So it wasn't even real flooding. A lot of my family doesn't live on the coast, and some of them live, Jamaica's got like a mountainous, like rainforesty vibe as well. So some of my family lives there. We were a little bit concerned about mudslides, but I mean, stuff held up really well.
Good.
And I mean, it's an island nation. They're used to the idea that there might be a storm one day. You never know. So it just happened to be this one. So everybody's doing great. I appreciate people in the Arklatex who have messaged me on my work page asking how my family's doing. It means the world. So thank you. And we'll continue to amplify local efforts here in the Arklatex. Anything that we see, let me know if you see anything, and I'll try to get the word out too.
Hey, I'd be happy to help, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
That'd be fantastic. But anyways, thank you very much for coming on the First Alert with a Breakdown.
Anytime.
I really do appreciate it. Anyways, thank you guys for watching here at home. I really appreciate it too. Hey, have a great rest of your Wednesday. We'll be back again tomorrow here for your Thursday. We got a Met Chat coming for you again tomorrow with me, CJ, and for the first time in a while, Chief Meteorologist Matt Jones will be in the First Alert Weather Breakdown. How about that? You can catch that again on for tomorrow's weather podcast at 10:30. Be there, be square. Most importantly, hey, stay weather aware. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. See ya.